but I want to start by telling a story of failure. I run a company that helps US entities to do business in India. And I was approached several years ago by a friend, Cliff, whose business partner, Dan, had been approached by another outsourcing company whom we won't name, and they asked to buy the services and products of this company. And so they hired me and my firm to guide them on their journey to India and their journey to pitch this particular company. And a number of things happened. The founder fell sick and so on. And the presentation there went okay, but not so great. One of my employees in India is extremely well networked, as most of our people are. And we said, while we are here in India, let's see if we can meet with Tata Consultancy Services, since they are the biggest of the players in India. And I said, well, who do we know there? So my employee Purnima says, when I lived in Mumbai, Mr. Ramodarai, who was the CEO at that time, his wife and I were good friends because our daughters or kids studied at the same French school and so on. Let me call him up. And the next day we had an appointment to visit TCS, and my client was pitching these educational training services to the team at TCS. And as we walked in, we saw this sign in the, in the lobby that says, this was around 2006 or 7, that our goal is to be one of the top 10 consulting companies in the world. Okay? Now, my client, typical East Coast Bostonian kind of person, he kind of looks at that and says, what are they talking about? Probably somebody will buy them. Maybe that's the best way. And then we went in and we made our presentation, and this was if I remember right, the audience was the head of HR, Commodore Mahapatra. And he said, I think we could use your services to, when we interview potential employees, before that we put them through this test. And so my client said, oh yeah, we have this great test that you can run. And it has 500 questions. And he says, no. At TCS, for this to work, we need to have at least 50,000 questions, because of the nature of the hiring that we do. And that was pretty much the end of discussion for my client, Dan. That was not something they could even fathom that they could get to, because of the scale and size of the operations that TCS has. Right. Now, this was back in, like I said, the early 2000s. Today, and that TCS was at that time not even a company. It was part of Tata Sons. It was, not listed. Okay, they went and had an IPO, and today TCS is on a typical day valued by the Indian stock market as higher than Reliance. Okay, if you look at the top consulting firms in the world, Accenture, IBM, which is in consulting, but they do a lot of other things too, or at least they used to. And TCS, they're right up there. So not the top 10, they're among the top 3 now. Okay? Anant Krishnan has been the Chief Technology Officer for Tata Consultancy Services for many years. I first met Anant when I was involved in the Pan-IIT movement in the 2000s, and they were hosting a conference in Chennai, and we had a nice meeting at that time. IIT conference there went fabulously well, and when we were planning this event, I said it has to be based on the schedules of 2 people, and if we can get them both on the same day, we'll have the conference. One of them was Anant from TCS, and one of them was Professor Khosla, who's now in the room from UC San Diego. So thank you so much for making this event possible. Thank you, Anant. And I will have some questions, but what I do everything backwards. My name is Gunjan Bagla. I run Amrit, which is a management consulting firm, and we help American companies to do business in India. What I want you to do right now is to think of the questions you would have for the Chief Technology Officer of one of the largest companies in the world. How many employees do you have now?
440,000.
440,000 employees, okay? I can envision a day soon where TCS will be the largest employer in the world. Anant, tell us a little bit about the scope and structure of TCS today.
Thanks, Gunjan. Pleasure to be here. So TCS today, Tata Consultancy Services, is, like you said, a listed company in India, both the stock exchanges. Vital statistics, we are over $21 billion in annual revenues, which makes us in the top three in our industry, IBM, Accenture, TCS. The number of employees has been talked about. The way we are structured, we are headquartered in Mumbai. We are structured around our business lines. There are business lines specifically around industries. So banking, financial services, and insurance is about half our overall revenue, about 46%. My colleague Kamal here runs communications, media and information services, which is about a sixth of the total. Similarly, retail, manufacturing, energy, utilities, healthcare. These companies, which are the world's 1,000 biggest corporations, are the customers of TCS. We do many things for them. We traditionally have done a lot of IT work for them. So the CIO of these companies is our customer. But in the last 15 years, we are significantly present in working with the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. So we have a very strong digital business. We have designers, we have design studios, we have media marketing consulting. We have another line of business aimed at the CTOs. We do research and development outsourced from these companies, the world's best engineering companies, the world's best product companies. So engineers and scientists do contract research for them. We run for the life sciences and pharma industry very specialized activities, like for example, something like 8 out of 10 clinical trials in the world are run by us. And lastly, there's a fun fact for all the IITians in the room. In India, we run the biggest examination testing service. So JEE, GATE, CAT, the secondary services of the central and the state governments, like the police inspectors exam and so on and so forth, the 10th standard central board exam, the 12th standard central board exam, they're all run by TCS. In addition, of course, we run our own hiring, like Commodore said many years ago. There is a TCS national qualifier test, like the GRE, which any engineering grad in India can take. You can publish your TNQT score. A lot of them put it in their bios. With a high enough TNQT score, you can apply for a TCS interview and we hire them, because 3 million to 4 million people apply to TCS every year. We can't afford to interview people by individually going and talking to them. So that's what we do.
Okay. Now, here in the United States, we have quite a bit of trade with China. And so this morning, I took a shower at this hotel. The shower curtains had made in China. Okay. You touch almost anything, it's made in China. Can you tell us some examples of products that have TCS embedded in them that we might, we might come in contact with on a daily basis?
In the US, which is arithmetically about half of TCS's overall business, across all those industries that I talked about, many of the significant brands that you are familiar with have TCS embedded in them. So take this hotel. Marriott is a long-standing TCS customer. So every time you log into the app, you do something with a Marriott hotel, you transact, you reserve this room, you stay, the loyalty points, that's TCS underneath that. You go to an airline, the 4 major airlines, Delta, United, American, JetBlue, and of course the smaller ones, Alaska, they all use TCS for one or more of their critical services. If you have a media and communications interface, the telcos, Verizon, Comcast, these are clients of TCS. So if you buy an Xfinity service from Comcast, TCS engineers have actually built that, support that, manage that as we go forward. You go shop at a Walmart, a Target, a Best Buy, a Staples, and on and on. you buy a General Motors car. In France, Total, which is the biggest French company, they're transforming their entire digital backbone. Refinery 4.0 is what they publicly call it. That's being done by TCS engineers and so on. So across the world, major companies have TCS inside. Just like in a past era, Intel said Intel inside.
Yes.
This is TCS inside.
Yeah, I do a lot of public speaking, and I talk about this concept of India inside. China is visible, but India is inside. The pharmaceuticals you take are made in India typically. Here we want to really get into. We are all smart people in the room, and IITians and non-IITians alike. You're all welcome in this room. We want to get inside, really into typical day that Anant might experience. So tell us a little bit about that. I know you travel a lot, but what's a typical day like for the CTO of a 400,000 person company?
So my responsibilities as Chief Technology Officer are threefold. One is that I worry about the future technology backbone for our company. So research and development is my primary responsibility. So Gautam Shroff, IIT Kanpur, same year as me, 85. I was Delhi, he was Kanpur. Gautam is the head of TCS Research. He and his team of chief scientists, about 1,000 of them, we are the largest software research group in India by a mile. We invent stuff, everything from computing to AI to the usage of computing and AI in life sciences, in material sciences, in behavioral sciences, even media and entertainment and so on. We file patents, we publish in the best academic venues, and so on. So that's responsibility number one, which has a 10-year horizon. Dr. Khosla is on our board, so he'll probably be not too happy with us, but he keeps pushing the boundary on what we should be doing for the future that TCS will be. So that's responsibility one, and I work a lot with our research teams, figuring out what's the next big thing. So one thing which is on top of my mind is the ethics in AI. Right? We're doing a lot of AI across industries. Are we building it right? Will that be the right future? Second responsibility is with our co-innovation network. We have 1,000 people in research, another 3,000 in product development and engineering. This is outside of the other stuff that I said. There are 10,000 or more people in TCS who do contract research for our customers. They are not my responsibility. They're part of a business group. These people invent things for TCS. The 500 patents or so that we file every year are TCS and not somebody else. But we can't do everything ourselves. So we partner significantly with the world's best universities. Here in the US, all the usual suspects are there, the East Coast ones, the California ones, the Midwest. We have significant research presence. We have established 2 labs here, one in Cornell Tech in New York, focused on AI in retail. The second one's coming up in Carnegie Mellon. Again, AI, robotics in the context of the manufacturing and automotive industry. So university partnerships, startups. We have a network of over 1,800 startups globally that we engage with. We have, as I said earlier, a deep insight into the problems and challenges of the world's best companies. Many of those we can solve ourselves with our own smart technology, IP, and so on. A lot of those problems we can't solve. So if you're a startup in New Zealand, yesterday I was in Toronto, we connected up a challenge that one of the big financial institutions in Toronto has with their call center, with this company which is looking very promising in New Zealand, and TCS will integrate that solution into their thing, combining it with something that we have, the startup brings, and the financial institution's problem is solved. For that company in New Zealand, this is like manna out of heaven, right? So that's what the co-innovation network does. We partner with the major tech companies, the Googles of the world, the Qualcomms of the world, the Intels of the world, and go to market together. So I spend a lot of time on the partnering part. And lastly, I'm responsible for our new products and services, which is the new things that TCS will do. So it's a busy day.
Okay. We have a lot of questions here, so I'd request just quick answers to these. Okay. So Ravi from USC up here wants to know, what's the most exciting application of AI that TCS might be working on? Now you have to understand, 400,000 people, you may not know the answer exactly.
So the necessary and the more successful stuff is putting AI into our own business. Today, the consulting, technology services, applications, and so on work is very human. We have this program running called Machine First, which will initially amplify the capability of a human being so that one TCS person tomorrow can do the work of 10 TCS people today. So think of it as, Zuckerberg is building Jarvis for himself for personal productivity. Think of this as Jarvis for every TCSer in what we do today. Right? So the Machine First program has many aspects of it. That Ignio, our flagship product there, is extraordinarily exciting. And it is exciting for us. It's perhaps so deep under the covers for the rest of the world that they won't care, but it will make the world a better place. So that's one. If I flip it to the other side, consumer facing, a lot of the usage of AI today has been to sell more to people. Google's AI and so on, or Amazon's AI is about giving you the next best offer. The usage of AI in driving operational efficiency in, let us say, a power plant or a telecom company or a bank has huge implications. Right? And so can AI make those decisions to operate the world's largest corporations more efficiently? So that's another part. The last is AI on the front, which is the kind of example that I just mentioned. Can AI be the face of technology to the customers of our customers? So we are involved in redesigning the automotive experience. TCS is part of Tata Group, so Tata Motors, Jaguar are our own cousins within the group. Plus, we work with all the leading auto manufacturers. And boy, are we looking at some fantastic applications of what you will be doing in your personal transportation 5 years from now. Today, if you look at it, a 1,300 kilogram car is transporting a 75 kilogram human being and not doing it well. Even the autonomous car is an incremental step. Essentially, it tries to, a Tesla is still overkill for transporting one person. So there will be more coming in that direction.
Okay, great. Now you mentioned some other Tata companies, and so let me take up this next question. So if you go to the tata.com website, there are some striking statements that when I do my workshops on doing business in India, I often start from there. There's a line there that says, here's a group of companies that is capitalistic in objective, but socialist in nature, something of those words. Okay, and I picked that line out because that is mind-boggling to most American executives. The word socialist on a corporate website. Most Tata companies, the Tata family itself is, the individuals aren't very rich, right? You don't see their name on the Fortune, on the Forbes 400, okay? Because most of the shares are owned by the Tata trusts, right? And there's a common culture that runs across the Tata companies. But the question from the audience here, I'm not sure who asked this question, is about your company's culture, about the TCS culture. What sets it apart, from a Wipro or an Accenture or an IBM?
So the Tata culture certainly is a backbone of what TCS is, and being part of the community, being part of our stakeholders in a unified way. We read this now a lot in the Western press about the changing face of capitalism, companies being more responsive and so on, but that's how we are, and that's how we have been for 150 years now. Tata Group is 150 years old. TCS is 50 years old. What sets us apart? I've never worked anywhere else. I fooled around in IIT Delhi for a while and eventually graduated with 2 degrees and joined TCS 32 years ago. What attracted me then is very true even today. The ethics and values are are top notch. You're not uncomfortable doing anything that you individually don't believe in. The company's beliefs and my beliefs are identical. The second is that we work bloody hard. When I joined, when Kamal joined, the company was 10 crores, 15 crores of revenues, which is probably less than, in those days, exchange rates, $10 million. So we know what a small company is. And in a small company, the customer comes first. It doesn't matter your personal comfort and everything else kind of follows. That work culture is still extremely, extremely true. Stay close to the customer and listen and engage. Lastly, there is this whole notion of investing way ahead of time. The TCS Research started in '81 when we were nothing as a company.
Professor E.C. Subbarao from IIT
Subbarao
Kanpur.
from IIT Kanpur founded it, exactly. Right? So those are things, leading, excellence, integrity, treat our people well. That's what, and these are not just words. I mean, you actually feel them every day. And many of the companies, Infosys, Wipro, they do this extremely well too. I mean, it's not that they are not doing these, but we feel that we really believe in these as well.
Okay, thank you. Now, I know you hire people from all the top universities in the world, and I just want to get a sense of, TCS is probably the largest employer of IIT alumni in the world. How do IITians do within your company, and are you looking to hire more?
So we have a very structured hiring program in India for IITians.
How about here, like from this room?
Yeah, I mean, sure. See me in the break. No, seriously, the US is one of our most significant markets. Last year, I think, or cumulatively in the last 3 or 4 years, we have hired, I think, 15,000 people, Americans in the US. And we are now rated as one of the top employers in the US across industries as well. So that part, I think, is quite clear. But going back to your earlier point on IITians in India, there is a special program that I run for IITians. I mentioned to you the National Qualifier Test and all the rest of it. For the IITians, we have a graduate internship program, a postgraduate internship program, a PhD program. And so IITians get hired only after they jump through these hoops. And it's predominantly into my group, into research. We intern about 200 IITians a year. Now there are 20 plus IITs. We don't go to all 20 campuses, we go to about 10. And the cycle is that about 120 odd get hired every year out of that pool of 200, which is the cohort that they were part of. Out of those 120, about 30 are undergrads, about 60 to 65 are postgrads, the balance are PhDs.
Excellent. I think we are pretty much out of time at this point. Anant is going to be around for the rest of the morning, so you can certainly catch him during the break. I couldn't get through all the questions, but he's one of the most accessible people that I've met at IITians. As IITians, we are all equals, so it's great to have somebody like him within our presence. And thank you so much, Anant, for making time.
Thank you.
We have a little memento for you. We have a little memento for you. I would call it a coffee mug, but he doesn't drink coffee, so it's a tea mug.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great pleasure, Gunjan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
This is like in Tamil movies, you have a propensity for multiple roles. I'm an IIT alumnus. I've been on IIT Bombay's board, and I'm also an active donor to IIT Delhi. So it's great fun. So guys, don't just be an alumnus, be a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you very much.